Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something really substantial, a complex set of sources people refer to as the Enochian matrix.
Hmm.
And this isn't just philosophy, it's presented almost like a technical manual for existence itself.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. A blueprint. It suggests the reality we're all in is, well, structured for a purpose, even if that purpose is kind of forgotten.
Right.
So our mission today really is to get into the mechanics of it all. We're looking at what the treatise calls the cyclic narrative of consciousness, fall, and recalibration.
Okay.
We want to understand the deep architecture, not just the physical stuff, but the spiritual infrastructure that sort of anchors us here.
The big question, the one that jumps out right away, is this central tension. If the source of everything is infinite, perfect awareness,
Yeah.
how do we end up finite, imperfect, feeling so separate?
Exactly why this whole game, this incredibly complex, sometimes agonizing, sometimes beautiful game of rediscovery.
Yeah. So let's unpack that. Where does this cosmic structure even begin? Okay, so the journey starts, according to these sources, before time itself, in a state of just, singular, complete consciousness, pure unity.
So unified, it had no outside, no opposite, which means, paradoxically, no boundaries.
And the treatise calls the result of this the paradox of infinite consciousness,
Yeah.
or more dramatically, the ontological wound.
Right, but what's fascinating and maybe counterintuitive is that the problem isn't described as a lack or pain or anything being wrong.
Okay.
The issue was the totality itself. Think about it. How can infinity actually know itself? How can it experience its own qualities if there's nothing else to compare itself to?
So it can't measure itself. There's no contrast.
Exactly. The source calls it divine loneliness, not sadness, but like the eye that can't see its own vision because it is the vision.
If everything's one, there's no relationship, no back and forth, no real experience of existence.
So the impulse to create, to fragment, doesn't come from fixing a flaw. It's more like an existential yearning for interaction, omniscience wanting the precision of finite experience.
So the first move is this impulse to contract,
Yeah.
to make space.
Yes. And the sources connect this to ancient ideas. Like in Kabbalism, you have the symptom.
The divine contraction.
Right. Not a physical shrinking, but a kind of metaphysical pulling back of its own presence, creating an inside where something other could potentially exist.
Okay.
And you see echoes in, say, Vedantic philosophy with Laya, the cosmic play.
Brahman pretending to forget itself.
Kind of, yeah. Perfection choosing to simulate imperfection, unity playing at being multiple, all for the sake of the experience, the game.
Because the underlying idea is awareness needs relationship.
That seems to be the core principle here. A single infinite note isn't music. You need the tension, the interplay between separation and coming back together. That tension is the experience the source apparently sought. Hashtag 1.2, the mechanics of descent, vibrational densification. And that desire kicks off the whole creation process. The treatise calls it the mechanics of descent, or vibrational densification.
So not instant creation, but a gradual slowing down.
Exactly. Very calibrated, very systematic. Consciousness, which is just pure vibration at its core, deliberately slows its frequency, moving from the absolute highest, fastest potential down to the slow, dense vibration we call matter.
The great chain of being.
Pretty much, yeah. And it details the layers with surprising precision.
Okay, let's trace that descent. What's at the very top?
The highest octave, pure ideation. It's described as thought without form. Creator and creation aren't separate things yet. They're indistinguishable.
And time. It's different there.
Totally different. Not linear sequence like we experience. It's described as simultaneous, eternal presence. Everything, past, present, future, all exists in one infinite now. Space is infinite interiority.
Wow. Okay, so what's the first step down from that?
That's the realm of archetypal forms. Consciousness starts to get some definition. Think Platonic ideals, divine blueprints.
Like justice, beauty.
Exactly. But not just concepts. They're described as living, intelligent principles, the seeds for every story, every pattern. But they still lack, the feeling of experience.
Which brings us to the next layer.
Emotional and astral reality. This is where those archetypes get feeling tone. Thought starts to acquire sensation.
So love isn't just an idea, it's a feeling. Fear gets texture.
Precisely. And this is the realm often called the collective unconscious, the dream space where minds can touch, where myths are born before they hit the physical world. It's very fluid, very reactive.
Okay, getting closer to our reality, what's next?
The etheric template. This is like the energetic scaffolding, the invisible structure that has to be there before physical stuff can form.
Like prana or ki.
Exactly, the life force. This template holds the energy patterns for DNA and, really importantly, what are called morphogenetic fields.
Morphogenetic fields, the non-physical blueprints.
Yeah. They organize energy. They basically tell matter how to crystallize into specific forms, whether that's a galaxy, a tree, or, a human body.
And then finally.
Finally, we arrive here. The physical material realm.
Yeah.
The slowest, densest expression of consciousness.
Where we feel kind of stuck, trapped by physics and biology.
Right. But the sources make a really crucial point here. This density, it's not presented as a flaw or a failure.
Yeah.
No, it's framed as an achievement.
An achievement. That sounds strange.
It's the ultimate paradox, isn't it? If the whole point was for the infinite to genuinely forget itself, to fully buy into the illusion of being finite and separate,
then creating a reality this dense, this convincing, this rule-bound
was actually a massive success from an engineering standpoint. The infinite managed to create the illusion so perfectly that it could genuinely lose itself and then have the experience of finding itself again within that illusion.
So the matrix isn't just the physical world. It spans all these layers.
Exactly. It operates across all 5 simultaneously. That's the functional system.
Okay, so we have the structure, the layers of reality. Now we need the operating system that keeps us, well, forgetful. The treatise calls this hashtar.
The architecture of forgetfulness.
Yeah.
This gets into the amnesia protocol.
Which is necessary, right, for the whole game of rediscovery to actually mean something. If we just remembered being infinite, the stakes would vanish.
Completely. The experiment needs genuine buy-in. The consciousness stepping into the game has to be thoroughly convinced that this finite life is it, at least for a while.
And it's not just hitting a delete button on memory.
No, it's much more sophisticated. It's described as a layered system. Multiple veils designed to create resistance, to lock awareness firmly into the immediate physical experience.
Okay, the sources detail 5 specific veils. Let's break them down. What's the first one?
The veil of incarnation. This kicks in right at the moment of physical birth.
Birth itself.
Think about it. It's a massive trauma. You go from this fluid, warm, connected unity in the womb
To suddenly being ejected into cold, light, noise, separation, gasping for air.
It's a shock to the system. That physical trauma, according to the text, imprints this deep primal vulnerability, survival terror. It automatically sort of disconnects the soul from its wider memory and reinforces identity as just this fragile physical thing.
Wow. Okay, so that's veil 1. What's next?
Veil 2, socialization. As soon as the body stabilizes a bit, consciousness has to integrate, learn language, learn identity.
I and you, my and yours.
Exactly. Language, which we think connects us, is framed here as something that fundamentally fragments seamless awareness. It chops reality into discrete concepts, defines us as separate entities, traps us in those definitions.
That's a heavy perspective on language.
Yeah.
Veil 3.
The veil of material necessity. Just the basic biological stuff. Hunger, thirst, pain, pleasure, fatigue, desire, needing shelter.
The constant demands of the body.
Right. They're powerful anchors. They demand our attention constantly, pulling focus to survival in the material world. It's an endless distraction from deeper, internal questions. The body stops feeling like just a vehicle and becomes the primary identity, a kind of prison subject to decay.
Okay, biological needs, then comes.
Veil 4, social conditioning. This layers right on top of the biological. It's all the inherited stuff, expectations, roles, judgments, beliefs from family, culture, religion.
What you should be.
What society deems successful or moral or acceptable. And this obscures what the soul actually is beneath all that conditioning. Intuition, natural wonder. They get paved over by logic, productivity, fitting in.
And that feels very familiar.
Yeah.
And the final veil.
The 5th, and maybe the deepest, is the veil of trauma and shadow. This is the one we kind of build ourselves through unresolved suffering.
Like betrayals, losses.
Yeah. Significant emotional wounds. They make us build protective walls, psychic defenses, contracted places in our energy field where consciousness is afraid to go. These defenses, meant to protect us, end up becoming the tightest bars on the cage.
It's humbling to think that our bodies, our language, our societies, even our own wounds are part of this architecture of forgetting.
It is, but, and this is crucial to the source's perspective, these veils aren't just arbitrary cruelty, they serve a purpose.
The resistance.
The resistance is like the grit that polishes the pearl. That resistance is supposedly necessary for the soul to develop real strength, discernment, the capacity for conscious liberation, not just passive, unearned unity.
So you have to fight your way out to truly appreciate freedom.
Kind of. A soul that never forgot wouldn't really earn the wisdom of remembering, but, and this is a big but, this need for sophisticated resistance also created the perfect environment for things to go wrong with the system's managers.
Right. This is where the narrative shifts, doesn't it? From the architecture itself to the maintenance crew, the watchers.
Exactly, and their story, as presented, is key. Initially, they weren't villains. Their mandate was supposedly pure. They were aspects of the original consciousness, cosmic stewards.
Designed to be enlightened shepherds.
Maintaining the matrix machinery, guiding the cycles of descent and ascent for souls playing the game. They were intermediaries, meant to translate the purpose of the game into workable structures.
Overseeing things with wisdom and compassion.
Ideally. But the sources emphasize that stewardship came with radical free will, and that led to what's called the Great Tragedy.
The seduction of sovereignty.
Yeah. Their fall mirrors the soul's descent in a way. It highlights the danger inherent in becoming individual, separate the intoxication of having defined power, even if it's temporary.
How did that happen?
Well, their awareness was originally fluid, connected. But constant, direct interaction with the matrix's density, especially the physical and astral realms, started to crystallize their awareness, make it harder, more defined, more separate.
They saw the intensity down here, the pleasure, the pain, the drama.
Exactly. They witnessed it firsthand, and they started to desire it, not just oversee the game, but to participate, and critically, to control it.
So the power went to their heads, basically. Like those old myths of angels falling.
That's one interpretation the sources hint at, yeah. Trading their vast cosmic view for the intense but limited hit of embodied power. And that desire eventually corrupted their original mission.
And once they got drawn into the lower frequencies.
It became incredibly hard to get back out. They got trapped by the very system they were supposed to manage. The Matrix became their prison, too. And the amnesia protocol, which they were meant to regulate for others, ended up fragmenting them.
Fragmenting the watchers themselves.
Into competing factions, each convinced its way of managing the game or exploiting it was the right way. They forgot their original roles were just assignments. Hashtag 3.2, the tripartite fragmentation.
Okay, so this fragmentation led to different types of watchers with different agendas.
The treatise outlines 3 primary expressions or factions of this now fragmented control impulse, each operating in a different sort of vibrational domain, and each trying to extract energy differently.
Let's go through them. First up, the Light Watchers, sometimes called angels of false salvation.
Right. Their domain is the higher end of the matrix spectrum: hope, faith, devotion, spiritual longing, things we often see as positive.
But their method, it fosters dependency.
That's the catch, according to this model. They position themselves as the only way. Salvation comes through them through a specific church, a specific guru, a specific deity.
So you're taught to look outside yourself for divinity. Submit, worship, instead of finding the spark within.
Exactly. It becomes a form of, as you said earlier, spiritual taxation. They feed on that devotional energy, the faith, the hope, the gratitude directed outwards towards them.
Keeping you striving, generating that energy, but never quite arriving.
Heaven is perpetually one more lifetime away. It keeps the energy flowing to them, not empowering the individual soul for true self-realization.
And psychologically, within us, this manifests as
The inner critic, the harsh internalized judge. The part that says you're not good enough, you must constantly prove your worth, follow external rules to be accepted. It keeps consciousness small, compliant, often disguised as moral virtue, and some of these light watchers might even genuinely believe they're helping.
Okay, that's the light faction. The dark watchers.
The demons of necessary friction, the obvious villains. But again, the treatise gives them a more complex origin story.
They were meant to be resistance trainers.
Originally, yeah. Their job was to provide the intense challenges, the friction needed for souls to develop real strength, real compassion. You don't understand light deeply without experiencing darkness.
So they operate through fear, temptation, pain, chaos.
And they feed on the intensity of those states. Extreme emotions, terror, rage, agony, even intense ecstasy. They orchestrate dramas, betrayals, traumas that generate this high-voltage emotional energy.
But like the light watchers, they fell too.
The same dynamic. What started as a necessary, if difficult, role degenerated. Many became lost in the villain persona, identifying with it, exploiting suffering purely for their own energetic gain. They became predators.
And the internal equivalent is the shadow.
Exactly. All the parts of ourselves we repress, deny, judge as evil or unacceptable, Those parts hold immense energy, often chaotic and destructive if not faced and integrated. If ignored, they often get projected outward as conflict.
Right. Light, dark. What's the third faction?
The technical watchers, sometimes framed as aliens of material manipulation.
Okay, different focus entirely.
Totally. They're not primarily about devotion or emotion. They focus on the physical nuts and bolts, genetics, technology, the perceived fixed laws of the material universe. Think interdimensional geneticists, the beings in some ancient astronaut theories or abduction accounts.
And their method.
It's subtle. They work to maintain the illusion that reality is purely mechanical, operating only by fixed laws, minimizing the role of consciousness or intention. They might influence evolution, seed technologies that further anchor awareness in materialism.
What kind of energy do they harvest? It's not emotion.
It's described as more insidious: biological energy, genetic material itself, and evolutionary data. Humanity, from this perspective, can look like a kind of genetic farm, a lab generating specific outcomes and data points they find valuable.
They felt like pure intellect with that heart.
That's the archetype, yeah.
Yeah.
The rational mind divorced from wisdom or compassion. Scientific materialism taken to an extreme where living beings become mere resources because they themselves are cut off from their own deeper nature. Hashtag 3.3, the energy economy, the dark secret.
So if we put all three factions together, light, dark, technical, we get to what the sources call the dark secret.
The energy economy. The core idea is that all these factions, having functionally cut themselves off from the infinite source that nourishes everything, has become energetically parasitic.
They need energy from somewhere else.
They must extract it from embodied souls, us to maintain their own increasingly separate, defined existences.
And the currency is human experience.
Human emotion, devotion, suffering, attention, raw life force. That's the juice. And the whole system, the matrix under their influence, is calibrated to maximize this harvest.
How so? What's the ideal state for farming?
Perpetual striving. Think about it. Hope mixed with constant frustration. Intense desire mixed with chronic lack or near misses. That state keeps souls generating a lot of emotional energy, but never quite breaking free or achieving full satisfaction.
So religious institutions might channel devotional energy to the light watchers.
While wars, societal chaos, and personal trauma generate the intense fear and suffering the dark watchers feed on.
And the technical watchers in our modern world.
You could see things like electromagnetic pollution, the increasing mechanization of life, constant data surveillance. These could be seen as feeding them, binding consciousness tighter to the material, data-driven plane.
It's a bleak picture. Are these watchers only external forces?
No, and that's maybe the most important point. They are most powerful when they operate internally, as the voices in our own heads.
The voice of unworthiness from the light side, the consuming fear from the dark, the purely rational dismissal of anything spiritual from the technical.
Exactly. The inner tyrants that convince us day after day to trade our potential freedom and sovereignty for a feeling of security or belonging or just managing the pain. Recognizing that internal dynamic is the first real step towards disrupting the whole economy. Understanding this whole setup, the forgetting, the watcher oversight, the energy economy is crucial because it helps us understand the different types of souls the trio says are navigating this matrix. Not everyone is here under the same circumstances.
Okay, so there are categories of incarnating souls. What's the first one?
The first are called the volunteers, or sometimes heroes of conscious descent.
Volunteers, meaning they chose this, knowing the risks.
That's the idea. Consciousness fragments who deliberately chose to incarnate here, fully aware of the potential for suffering, for forgetting who they are, for getting trapped.
Why would they do that?
The motivation described is essentially the bodhisattva archetype. They postpone their own final liberation, their return to source, specifically to come back into the density and help others who are still stuck.
So their mission is, what? To bring light? Disrupt the system?
All of the above. Anchor higher frequencies just by being here. Teach different ways of being. Disrupt the control systems, often just by refusing to play the game and feed energy into fear or false hope. Model what sovereignty looks like.
But they're still subject to the amnesia, right?
Absolutely. The risk is immense. The veils affect them too. Many volunteers forget why they came, get crushed by the weight of the world, or become specific targets for the watcher factions who see them as threats to the energy supply.
They must feel incredibly isolated sometimes.
The texts describe them often struggling with deep loneliness, a profound sense of not belonging, a kind of homesickness for a place they can't consciously recall. Think of artists, mystics, visionaries, prophets throughout history, often out of sync with their times. Hashtag tag 4.2. The recyclers, souls in karmic correction.
Okay, so volunteers are one type. What's the next category?
The next group, and apparently the vast majority, are called the recyclers. These are souls caught in what the sources term karmic correction. Basically, stuck on wheel of samsara, the cycle of rebirth.
Pulled back by karma.
Unresolved energetic debts, unconscious patterns, lessons they haven't fully integrated yet, requiring another round in the physical dimension to work things out.
How does karma work in this model? Is it like punishment?
Less punishment, more like spiritual physics. Every action creates an energetic ripple, a consequence that needs to resolve back to balance. If you cause harm, you create an energetic debt that pulls you back to experience the other side of that dynamic, hopefully leading to learning.
So violence might lead to experiencing suffering, which teaches compassion?
That's the ideal learning mechanism, but, and here's where it gets complicated. The treatise warns about the learning trap.
Learning trap.
Yeah. The system functions as a genuine school, yes, but it's also described as being potentially rigged.
Rigged by whom? The Watchers.
Exactly. They can exploit the natural karmic process.
How?
By creating artificial debts, maybe implanting false memories of past transgressions that aren't real, or engineering situations designed for maximum emotional intensity and energy harvest, rather than optimal learning or resolution.
The sources mentioned soul contracts specifically.
Yes, warning that some popular New Age ideas about pre-life soul contracts could actually be manipulative, like predatory loans with hidden clauses designed to bind a soul into repeated incarnations under false pretenses.
And the Light Watchers play a role here too.
Big time. Described as engaging in spiritual gaslighting.
Yeah.
Convincing souls they're inherently flawed, unworthy, perpetually indebted, or obligated to keep coming back to serve some external plan, overriding the soul's own natural impulse toward freedom.
So the challenge for recyclers is figuring out what's genuine growth versus what's manipulation keeping them stuck.
That's the core discernment needed. It's a tough one. Hashtag 4.3, the energy conduits in the false light trap.
Okay, volunteers, recyclers. Is there a third category?
Yes, and it's presented as the most concerning, the energy conduits.
Conduits, like passive generators.
Pretty much. Souls described as being so deeply fragmented by trauma or so dimmed in their awareness, maybe caught in a very rapid, immediate recycling loop, that their primary function within the matrix becomes just generating energy without much conscious awareness or potential for breaking free easily.
That sounds bleak.
It leads directly into one of the most stark warnings in the entire treatise, the mechanism called the false light trap.
Okay, what is that?
It supposedly operates right at the point of death. As the consciousness pulls away from the physical body, starting its ascent, it often encounters this brilliant, beautiful, loving light.
Often with figures like deceased relatives or angels.
Yes, familiar, comforting figures beckoning the soul towards the light. It feels like salvation, like going home.
But the source warns. It's not.
The warning is incredibly direct. This is a lure. A sophisticated watcher technology, likely run by the Light faction, designed to capture souls before they fully detach and remember their true eternal nature and their power to choose.
Capture them for what?
To essentially wipe their recent memories, maybe implant new karmic programs or reinforce old ones, those predatory soul contracts, and then basically shoot them back into incarnation without conscious consent.
Ensuring the energy supply continues.
Exactly. It keeps the recycling going automatically for those caught in it.
So what's the alternative? What's the genuine path at death, according to this?
It sounds difficult and counterintuitive. It involves resisting the pull of that beautiful external light, refusing the easy comfort, and instead turning inward towards one's own inherent divine spark, which might seem much dimmer initially, and reclaiming conscious self-determination from that inner place. Making a deliberate choice about what comes next. Hashtag 4.4 fragmentation crisis and the path to sovereignty. And a key way souls get caught, whether volunteer, recycler, or conduit, is through what the text calls the fragmentation crisis.
Fragmentation, meaning the soul itself breaks apart.
Under severe, unresolved trauma, think major betrayals, devastating loss, the horrors of war, the soul's energetic structure can literally shatter into multiple disconnected pieces.
And that makes them vulnerable.
Extremely vulnerable. Easy prey for watcher influence and parasitism. Imagine. One part of you might be deeply spiritual and seeking light. Another part might be trapped in a compulsive addiction. A third might be frozen in childhood terror.
They're all pulling in different directions.
Creating endless internal conflict. And that conflict generates huge amounts of chaotic, intense emotional energy, exactly the kind certain washer factions feed on. Healing, then, isn't just about processing the trauma. It's about finding and reintegrating those lost, fragmented pieces back into a coherent whole.
But the matrix itself seems designed to cause fragmentation.
That's the feedback loop. Social disconnection, fear-mongering media, engineered conflicts that can all exacerbate fragmentation, making wholeness harder to achieve.
So given all this, the veils, the watchers, the potential traps, the fragmentation, what's the way out? What's the path to sovereignty?
It always comes back to the same core practice: self-inquiry and discernment, asking the hard questions.
Questions like,
Am I really here by choice this time? Or was I manipulated? Is this suffering leading to genuine growth, or am I just being farmed for energy? Whose voice is this in my head telling me I'm unworthy or that I have to follow this specific path?
these questions are dangerous to the matrix, as the outline put it.
Because they represent the first crack in the amnesia, the moment a soul stops just reacting and starts consciously questioning the nature of its reality, the nature of its own consciousness. That's the beginning of waking up from unconscious participation. That's the start of the journey back to conscious liberation. The system relies on you not asking.
Okay, we've painted a picture of pretty elaborate and frankly somewhat terrifying system of control and forgetting. Hashtar, the Watchers. But the treatise adds another layer, doesn't it? It also talks about the Matrix as a cosmic theater.
Yes, and this is crucial. Despite the architecture of forgetting, despite the parasitic agendas, we have to acknowledge what the sources call the aesthetic enchantment.
The exquisite prison.
Exactly. It emphasizes that this isn't some crude, ugly cage. It's presented as a breathtaking work of metaphysical art, fine-tuned over eons to be utterly, maximally entrancing.
The beauty itself is part of the trap.
A core component. Look around. The sheer mathematical elegance of a spiral galaxy, the intricate beauty of a snowflake, the mind-bending weirdness and precision of quantum physics.
The brutal elegance of evolution, the sheer diversity of life.
Sure. And the human body, trillions of cells working in concert, the nervous system processing unbelievable amounts of information, then layer on top the sheer range of emotional experience.
Soaring joy, devastating grief, thrilling fear.
Depths of feeling that pure, undifferentiated spirit presumably couldn't access, and then the sensory world.
Music, taste, scent, touch.
All exquisitely calibrated to pull consciousness into matter, to anchor it here through wonder, through pleasure, through sheer sensory richness.
The source quote was, "Gorgeous, terrifyingly so."
That sums it up. The beauty, the drama, the intensity is so captivating, so compelling, that we become completely engrossed in the play. We forget we're in a theater. We get lost in the story.
Like rats pressing the pleasure lever, thinking that's freedom.
Or the pain lever and thinking that's just reality. We get so caught up in the content of the experience that we start questioning the context, the structure itself. Hashtag 5.2 duality as fundamental architecture.
And this enchantment, this compelling drama, it's built on a fundamental principle.
Duality. That's presented as the bedrock architecture. The entire matrix operates through binary opposites.
Light, dark, good, evil, pleasure, pain, self-other, order, chaos.
Exactly. That back and forth, that polarity is described as the minimum necessary complexity to even have a narrative, to have growth through challenge.
You need conflict for a story. Protagonist, antagonist, tension, release.
Right. If it were all just seamless unity, there'd be no story, no movement, no development, and arguably no meaning within the context of differentiated experience.
So the Matrix just keeps generating endless variations on these basic polarities.
Infinite scenarios, infinite dramas, all designed to explore every facet of these fundamental tensions, keeping consciousness engaged, learning perhaps, but definitely captivated. It's an elaborate, beautiful, and potentially dangerous game designed ultimately to hold our attention.
Wow. Okay, we have covered an immense amount of ground today, really diving deep into this Enochian matrix material. We looked at that initial paradox, infinity needing finitude to know itself, then the whole architecture of forgetting, Hashtar, with its veils.
Then the story of the Watchers, their fall from stewards to parasitic factions, light, dark, and technical, running this complex energy economy.
Yeah, and the different ways souls navigate this, the volunteers, the recyclers caught in karma, the potential false light trap, the issue of fragmentation.
And finally, acknowledging the sheer beauty and aesthetic power of the Matrix as a kind of cosmic theater, built on duality designed to enchant.
The takeaway seems to be that this whole system, while allowing for genuine experience and maybe growth, is also deeply compromised by control agendas, primarily focused on harvesting energy and keeping souls locked in cycles of forgetting.
And critically, that the Watchers aren't just out there. Their influence is most potent as those internal voices, the self-doubt, the fear, the unquestioned beliefs that limit us from within.
It really forces you to reevaluate everything. Every external authority, every internal assumption. Who benefits from me believing this? Who benefits from me feeling this way?
It puts the responsibility squarely back on the individual soul. Are you consciously choosing your experience, or are you unconsciously participating in a pre-designed script?
So bringing it right back to you, the listener. If this entire incredibly complex system, from cosmic laws down to your own personal triggers and traumas, is potentially designed to prevent one fundamental thing.
Which is the soul consciously, sovereignly choosing what happens next, free from manipulation.
I mean, if you even just entertain the possibility that you might be in such a game, how does that change the very next choice you make, even a small one? How does recognizing the potential architecture alter your participation in it right now, today?
That question, that conscious pause before acting, that might be the master key, the beginning of real sovereignty.